Cantrips are one of the most important spells you can have, as they are fundamental tools that can strengthen your characters in and out of combat in Baldur's Gate 3, as you don't need to use spell slots to cast these spells. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you what I believe to be the very best cantrips to use in the game and why you should be using them. Without any further ado, let's get into it. We're starting off our list with Shalala. This cantrip is a bonus action that will imbue your staff or club with nature's power. It will become magical, dealing 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier in bludgeoning damage, and you use your wisdom modifier for attack rolls. This buff will last 10 turns and does not require any concentration. This is the only cantrip in the list that is a bonus action instead of a single action, and it's something that is quite simply going to help boost the damage of your characters. That being said, being reliant on your wisdom modifier means that only a few classes can take advantage of this, such as the druid or a monk for example. Again, cantrips are all about adding a free extra tool into your arsenal, and I think that not having to spend a whole action on casting Shalala is what makes the inclusion of this cantrip in the list. Next on the list is Firebolt, an evocation cantrip that allows your character to hurl a bolt of fire at an enemy as a ranged attack, all the way up to 60 feet, dealing 1d10 of fire damage if it connects. With the added benefit of whenever the caster reaches level 5, you will be able to use 2d10s. This is the perfect tool for a melee character that doesn't already have a ranged option. So if an enemy is far away from you and you have no way of reaching him, at the very least you will have a reliable way of dealing damage with this action without having to use a spell slot, and those can be very important, especially in lower levels. Next on the list is a spell that I've been using quite a lot, and that is Vicious Mockery, an enchantment cantrip that will allow your character to insult an enemy from range, dealing 1d4 psychic damage and receiving disadvantage on its attack rolls. Granted, the enemy will have to perform a wisdom save to negate the effect. This is, in my opinion, the perfect option to use for characters that don't have a lot of damage and are more focused on being utility characters. Something like a bard or even a cleric, so that if they are met with the choice of dealing low damage with, for example, an unlucky Firebolt, or using Vicious Mockery to make sure that the strong enemy deals less damage to your characters and therefore you don't need to use as many spell slots to heal them, well, that choice kind of becomes a no-brainer. It should be noted, however, that Vicious Mockery only lasts for a single turn, which is why I usually prefer to use it on the slower characters. So make sure that you use this when you know that the big bad is about to unleash a lot of damage. Next on the list is the inevitable and ever-present Eldritch Blast, the evocation cantrip that is known by all warlocks. With this, your character can conjure a beam of crackling energy that deals 1d10 force damage. With this, your character can conjure a beam of crackling energy that deals 1d10 force damage. That is quite simple. However, the cool thing about it is that at higher levels the spell will create multiple beams, which means that you can opt to target a single creature or multiple creatures with Eldritch Blast, but also the fact that you have Eldritch invocations such as Agonizing Blast or Repelling Blast, which will add even more effects to this cantrip. Now, the reason why I don't rank it higher is because it is a cantrip that cannot be used by a lot of characters. Otherwise, this would probably be number 1 on the list. It's an amazing spell that all warlocks know to be a reliable tool that will help them through the entire game. As such, Eldritch Blast ranks number 2 on the list. And before we get to the number 1 cantrip in Baldur's Gate 3, let's talk about the honorable mentions, the cantrips that I feel like can be very strong, although they are a bit more situational. Magehand allows you to create a spectral hand that can manipulate and interact with objects. And if you are a Githyanki or an arcane trickster, you can cast a special version of Magehand that is invisible. There is a variety of options and different things that you can do with the Magehand, things like opening levers, pushing buttons or creating distractions. However, I feel like Magehand is one of those spells that ends up being better in the pen and paper version of Dungeons & Dragons rather than in the Baldur's Gate game, where it is a lot more limited, and so it is tied down by its medium. Thaumaturgy is a very useful cantrip that will manifest a sign of supernatural power that will grant you advantage on intimidation and performance skill checks. This lasts 10 turns and will even pop up for you in dialogue options. And because it is a cantrip and does not use a spell slot, you can use this every single time. It's a very good way of making sure that those intimidation and performance skill checks are going to go your way, even if you don't have a lot of charisma, or you don't have anyone in your party buffing you like a Bard's Inspiration, for example. However, I feel like the game offers better options, which is why I didn't include Thaumaturgy in the list. Bone Chill is yet another ranged attack that in this case deals 1d8 necrotic damage. However, the cool thing about it is that it makes it so that enemies hit by this spell cannot regain HP. And if you hit an undead creature, they also get disadvantage on attack rolls. This can be extremely useful in the right scenarios. That being said, it needs to be in that scenario, otherwise it's just going to be an average ranged attack, at which point why not use Firebolt, which simply deals more damage on average. And so its unique condition is why it doesn't end up ranking on the list. And the final honorable mention is Ray of Frost, another ranged attack that deals 1d8 cold damage with the added benefit of reducing the target's movement speed. It's a very good spell to use in pretty much every single scenario, and as such I was very close to adding it to the list. And finally, it's time for the number 1 cantrip in Baldur's Gate 3, and I think that the number 1 spot is without a shadow of a doubt the Divination cantrip Guidance. Its effect allows you to bestow guidance upon an ally, which will receive a 1d4 bonus to ability checks. And this includes everything. Be it combat or a skill check in a dialogue option, guidance can always be there to boost your dice. And this effect lasts for 10 whole turns, with the caveat that it is a concentration spell, which requires the caster to focus on that spell for its duration. So that is something that you have to watch out for, but from my experience, Baldur's Gate 3 just has a ton of skill checks, especially in dialogue options, and being able to have guidance to help you out in every single one of those skill checks allows me to fulfill the fantasy of my characters and roleplay my way through Baldur's Gate 3. And I think that that is just invaluable, and that is why I put guidance as the number 1 cantrip in the whole game. Let me know if you disagree with any of these options. Are there any cantrips that you would like to see included in this video? And let me know if you want to see another video like this about the different schools of spells. I'm going to be making a lot more Baldur's Gate 3 content, from multi-classing guides and advanced builds, to things and items you might have missed, as well as some tips and tricks here and there. And all of that, of course, with a focus on having more fun with the game. So if you guys are looking forward to more Baldur's Gate 3 videos, please subscribe to the channel, as it really does help me out a lot, especially as I am a small creator. It really does make a huge difference. With that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. My name is Dark Hero, and as always, thank you very much for watching.